Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Virtual Humboldt Trail Summit. Thank you for joining us, especially during these challenging times. My name is Emily Sinkhorn, and I'm with Redwood Community Action Agency and the Humboldt Bay Trail Working Group, and I'll be helping to facilitate today's meeting. So we'll be beginning our main content here momentarily, and we have concurrent participation through this Zoom webinar and also through Access Humboldt Channel 12 and Facebook Live through Humboldt Trail Council's page. And also this summit will be recorded and posted to Access Humboldt's YouTube channel. So especially if you have friends that are out using trails this morning and not able to view, you can send them that link. So while we're waiting a couple more minutes to get started, please consider taking a quick poll if you are tuning in via Zoom webinar. So the poll will be, what local trail has been especially important to you for physical and mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic? So we have a pop-up box that has now appeared on your screen, so you can participate. Then we'll get back to the main webinar portion. Great, so for some technical logistics overview, all participants are in listen-only mode. We will have both live speakers and also recorded videos as our main summit content. Participants can submit questions through the question and answer Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom webinar. And if there's time, questions will be considered by the live presenters and also by the summit organizers. And for those of you that submitted questions prior to the event, thank you. And those have been forwarded to the presenters to try to address during their presentation. So let's take a look at the agenda for today. Great, let's take a look at the poll results. So thank you very much for participating. It is great to see that there seems like people are using a lot of these trails that we mentioned in the poll results. So Eureka Waterfront Trail, Arcata Community Forest Trails, Arcata's Humboldt Bay Trail North, and the Hammond Coastal Trail. These are trails that really form the backbone of our regional trail network, and it's great to see that we all are able to enjoy those trails. And through this summit, we'll be learning about upcoming trails in development that we will all be able to enjoy and utilize for daily activities here soon. So let's take a look at the agenda. Great, so we're going to start here soon with a live update from Hank Seaman at Humboldt County and with Humboldt County Public Works to give an overview of our regional trail work, and also especially focusing on the work that the county is doing to expand our regional trail system. We will then go to a series of recorded videos, first from the city of Eureka, and then from the city of Arcata. And then we will head east to Blue Lake and have a video with the Friends of the Annie and Mary Trail and the city of Blue Lake, followed by an exciting on-location video of the groundbreaking of the first phase of the Annie and Mary Trail. And then we will head down to the city of Rio Dell to hear about trail and walking biking projects that they're engaged in. We'll have a video from the city of Fortuna, and then the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association, and followed by the Humboldt Trails Council with the volunteer trail stewards. And then we will close with a live presentation from Senator Mike McGuire. We're honored to have him join us today at the summit. And he will be providing updates on the Great Redwood Trail and also how our local trail system can tie into this larger vision for the Great Redwood Trail between Humboldt Bay and San Francisco Bay. And then we will close with a question and answer period, and then also talk about how if your question wasn't addressed, to have contact info for the speakers to be able to follow up. Great. So as most of the trails we will discuss today are located in the greater Humboldt Bay area and the lower Eel River Valley, I would like to start with an acknowledgement that the land on which these trails are located or being planned is unceded territory of the Wiyot tribe. Today we gather virtually with respect to the tribe, which has been here since time immemorial. So for a bit of background about why we're hosting this Humboldt Trails Summit, this is actually the 4th Humboldt Trails Summit, though it's through a virtual format, trying to adapt to our current times. And it's held this day, the first Saturday of June, as that is also National Trail Day. So we're here to celebrate progress and also look to the future. And this event this year has been organized by the Humboldt Trails Council and the Humboldt Bay Trail Working Group. So the purpose of the summit today is to share in the excitement of local trail progress, to learn about trails in process, to understand the potential of our regional trail system linking into the Great Redwood Trail, to acknowledge how trails and public spaces are more important than ever during this time of COVID-19 as outlets for physical activity and mental health. And while this summit is focused on trail development, I'd also like us all to think about how we can support all people, especially people of color, to feel welcome and safe using our local outdoor spaces, streets, and trails. So now our first live presenter will be Hank Seaman, Humboldt County Public Works Deputy Director, to give an overview of trail development in the region, and particularly in the county's jurisdiction. So now I'll pass it to you, Hank.
Good morning. Thank you, Emily. First, I want to acknowledge the ongoing public health crisis and the impacts from the coronavirus pandemic. Many of us are grieving and suffering and struggling to keep things together. As we've sheltered in place the last few months, we've become acutely aware that we live in a physical world. Our bodies need to move, and we need to be outdoors and connect with the natural world. The pandemic has highlighted the immense value of trails for providing opportunities for outdoor activities and demonstrates how trails and natural areas are essential for our bodies and our spirits. Over the last several years, the County of Humboldt, the local cities, and Caltrans have been working hard to improve our infrastructure and our public lands to increase opportunities for active transportation and recreation. Over the last few months, we've had to divert attention to focus on urgent health and safety issues and fundamentally reorganize our work practices. Local agencies are also facing imminent and severe budget shortfalls. But we're doing the best we can to adjust to this new normal and to keep these critically important trail projects moving forward. I would like to share some maps and pictures now with you and provide updates about trail projects involving the County of Humboldt. I would like to start by acknowledging how the Hammond Trail has enhanced the quality of life in McKinleyville for many years. The Hammond Trail has also served as a regional destination for access to Clam Beach and the Mad River. The Hammond Trail has served as a model for what we want for all our communities. It's important to remember that the Hammond Trail was built in phases. The pieces came together as a series of discrete projects to form a continuous network of trails that we enjoy today. The Hammond Trail shows how an inspiring vision and a team of people with passion and dedication can create something enduring and immensely valuable. I would like to express appreciation for the volunteer trail stewards who will be marking their 10th year of assisting Humboldt County with maintaining the Hammond Trail. and I would like to pay tribute to Don Tuttle, who died on May 15th at the age of 81. Don had a long career working for Humboldt County Public Works. He was a mentor and a friend to me, and he was widely admired for his kindness and his passion for Humboldt County history. Don was one of the many contributors who helped bring the Hammond Trail projects together in the 1980s and 1990s. Thank you, Don. Next, we'll talk about the McKay Community Forest. This map shows the red line is the property that Humboldt County acquired in 2014. That area was 1,000 acres and extends almost 5 miles from north to south. The community forest is situated between the urban interface with Eureka and Ryan Creek. It's located east of Cutton and Ridgewood Heights and south of Redwood Acres. I want to acknowledge the City of Arcata's model for community forestry. Starting in the 1980s, the City of Arcata helped create and promote the vision of community forestry, in which citizens are actively involved with forest stewardship based on a deep connection to the land and a sense of place. The county is aiming to emulate that model for the McKay Community Forest. I also want to express appreciation to Green Diamond Resource Company for recognizing the community benefits of selling forest land at the urban interface with Eureka and working hard to make that possible. The County of Humboldt released a draft trail plan in 2019, looking at access points, trails, and amenities. The initial access points will be located at Northridge Road and Harris Street, and hopefully Redwood Acres, Redwood Fields, and other locations will be phased in as access points over time. We're currently projecting a total of approximately 30 miles of trails, and I want to especially recognize the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. They took tremendous time and effort to review our draft trail plan. They had wonderful recommendations for additional mountain biking trails that would serve our community, and they back that up with offers to assist in trail building and trail maintenance. So we really look forward to working with Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association as a partner. The next step for the McKay Community Forest is to complete the environmental study for the trail plan. Unfortunately, progress on this effort has been slowed by the pandemic and other urgencies. Our goal is to complete the environmental study next month, to circulate that study for a 30-day comment period, and then adoption by the Board of Supervisors later this summer. Once the study is adopted by the board, we can start building trails and open them to the public, hopefully by the end of the summer. This is one of my top priorities, is to finish that environmental study and get that trail plan adopted. 3 final points about the McKay Community Forest. Starting next month, the county expects to have a consulting forester under contract to support the planning for forest stewardship and sustainable timber harvest. Revenues from timber harvest will be invested in trail building and the overall management of the forest. We've also been working with the California Conservation Corps on fuel reduction for wildfire preparedness. And in almost 2 weeks, on June 23rd, the Board of Supervisors will consider approving an expansion at the southwest end of the community forest. That's shown on the map outlined in purple. This is the proposed phase 2 property acquisition, 197 acres, and the board will be considering approving that acquisition using state funds and donated funds, and the goal is to close escrow by the end of June. So I want to express just incredible respect and admiration for the cities of Eureka and Arcata for completing the Eureka Waterfront Trail and the Humboldt Bay Trail North. The county is working on Humboldt Bay Trail South, the 4-mile connection along the Eureka Arcata Highway 101 and Railroad Corridor that would connect the Eureka Waterfront Trail with the Humboldt Bay Trail North. In 2019, state funding to construct the project was awarded to the county, and we're currently working to work through the phases of project development, and get approvals for construction. One of the things that we're working on are the right-of-way acquisitions. For nearly half the project area, the North Coast Railroad Authority has an easement on private property, and the Railroad Authority doesn't own that property. So the county's been working with the 3 private owners to acquire right-of-way for the Bay Trail. We're working to negotiate fair compensation and determine what is needed for the trail to be compatible with their business operations. We'll know in a few months if there will be a need for any significant design adjustments. The project area is also vulnerable to flood hazards associated with sea level rise. We performed studies to determine the appropriate elevations of the trail and other design features to make the trail more resilient to flooding. Studies for additional sea level rise adaptation measures for the Highway 101 corridor are currently in progress. Permitting infrastructure projects along the coast is always a big challenge. Our goal is to submit permit applications for the Bay Trail South project by the end of June and to have permits issued by early 2021. And it's still our goal to begin construction in 2021. I want to express appreciation for how individuals and businesses in our community have been incredibly generous with donations to the Humboldt Bay Trail Fund, which was established to create an endowment to support local agencies with the future maintenance and repairs of the Bay Trail, with an emphasis on community volunteers. An additional project that the county is working on is a half-mile paved shared use path along a portion of Highway 255 in Manila. This is in collaboration with Caltrans and the Manila Community Services District. This project is moving forward. However, we are taking a step back for a more comprehensive environmental report, and our plan is to begin construction on this project next year, in 2021. So this map shows the corridor along the Mad River between Arcata and Blue Lake. This is the old Arcata and Mad River Railroad line. This was a branch line to the main line around the bay. And as you'll hear later, there's been a vision for several decades to develop this railroad corridor into a trail connecting the communities along the Mad River. 3 projects are currently being actively pursued. You'll see a video about the groundbreaking for the City of Blue Lake's half-mile project shown in yellow there. And then you'll also hear from Arcata. Arcata has taken the lead with support from Humboldt County and the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District to propose a project that would extend from the center of Arcata all the way to pump station number 1. And Arcata will be applying for competitive funding with applications due in September. And then finally, Humboldt County and Caltrans are partnering to apply for competitive funding to develop a project shown in red there that would extend from Charton Road and Blue Lake, and it would go along Highway 255, along the edge of the Caltrans right-of-way, and then would enter into Glendale. That project would extend for 1.7 miles. And as a final note, I wanted to share with you that our local Caltrans district is getting ready to begin the process of developing an active transportation plan for the state highway system in Humboldt, Del Norte, Mendocino, and Lake counties. The purpose of the plan is to identify needs for making the state highway system more amenable for all non-motorized modes of transportation. And there will be opportunities for public participation starting this summer. The website for Caltrans active transportation plans is shown at the upper right. With the challenges and struggles of the pandemic, I've personally found solace and hope by observing the use of trails around our community. I've seen parents walking and biking with children. I've seen couples, young and old, holding hands. I've seen people rehabilitating from injuries, and I've seen people finding solitude. Being outside on trails, we can try to let go of our fears and burdens and find moments of beauty and joy. And we can nod and wave to our fellow travelers and acknowledge our common bonds. Trails take us to places we love, with people we love, and trails are an essential resource. They provide opportunities to be active, to heal and regain our strength, to build resilience for the future, and to affirm our connections with each other. I want to express my gratitude to the Humboldt Trails Council and the many volunteers who organized today's Trail Summit, and I want to thank all of you watching for your support of trails in Humboldt County. Back to you, Emily.
Thank you very much, Hank, for those words during this time, and especially for your leadership in prioritizing and advancing our local trail system. And if anyone listening, if you have questions for Hank, again, you may utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom webinar. And at the end of the webinar, we will be taking questions to our live presenters, Hank and Senator McGuire. Great, so now we will have a video clip from the city of Eureka, and especially as Hank detailed plans and progress and existing use of the Humboldt Bay Trail, we're going to be visiting the Eureka Waterfront Trail, which serves as the southern portion of the Humboldt Bay Trail. And we will first be tuning in, again via video, with Miles Slattery.
Hey trail peeps, how's it going? Just got back from walking back from work along our waterfront trail. We've been on the waterfront trail for the past 2 months. I'm here at my rental house during the shelter in place. My family, I'm, believe it or not, an essential worker, and I'm trying to protect my family, so I've been at a rental here in Eureka, and I've been living the reality of the dream of the young high school kid who went to Annie and Mary meeting back in the 1990s. I'm walking our waterfront trail every single day from my rental here all the way to the Adorney Center to work. So I walk about 3 miles of the trail every day. It's definitely serving its purpose. And one of the great things that I've noticed during this pandemic is there's thousands of people that are out on the waterfront trail. It's amazing to me that I'm living this reality now because it's really an alternative mode of transportation. I'm still a little bit bitter about Caltrans and not initially approving our application, but you know, they came to good reason and ended up figuring out that it was worth it, and it's been a huge game changer for the city of Eureka. As everyone knows, you know, we are the first agency to start filling the gap of the coastal trail here in Humboldt County. We started with the Hickshari Trail in 2013. And then through the years after that, all the way up to 2018, we completed the full 6.3 miles of waterfront trail that's here within the city. But I'm not here to bore you about what we've done in the past. If you want to know more about that trail in the past, please Google Eureka Trailblazers. Our videographer here and our filmmaker, Joseph Carter, is the person who put that together along with Brian Millett. They produced and put together the whole story behind how the waterfront trail came about. So please, if you have an opportunity, go check out Eureka Trailblazers. It's a great documentary about how the trail was built. But I'm here to talk to you today more about what we have in store for the future for our trails in here in the city of Eureka. Okay, so welcome to my home office, my Zoom office, my Cisco office, my WebEx office, but this is where, when I'm not at work, where I come to do work, and I want to talk to you guys about what we have in store for the future for trails in the city of Eureka. The first project I want to talk about is the extension of the waterfront trail. So as a part of a restoration project along the Elk River, the property that's to the north and the south of the Elk River, to the west of 101, we are going to be restoring all of that property into a salt marsh. And along with that project, we're going to be building along the railroad corridor a 1 mile extension of the waterfront trail going from the Hickshari Trail all the way down to Humboldt Hill Road and the small street off of that called Tooby Road. And so we'll be taking the trail, same concept, multi-use, ADA accessible trail from the Hickshari down towards Tooby Road, and then we're going to partner with Caltrans, and Caltrans is going to rehab their park and ride at Humboldt Hill Road and provide some pedestrian access from the park and ride across Tooby Road and over to the property that the city owns, and then build a boardwalk over to our trail. This will help them with some of the pedestrian incidents that they've had on 101, and so they're going to partner with us to complete this trail. So that'll be another 1 mile adding to the 6.3 miles of the waterfront trail. The big news for the whole city, obviously, is Beta Zoo. Beta Zoo is a component of an overall master plan for the city. What we want to do is have a total loop trail around the entire city. So the waterfront trail will serve as half of that loop, and then the next quarter of that will be going from the waterfront trail kind of close to where the 101 is in the Shoreline RV Park, and heading up behind along that marsh up to Myrtle, past and beyond Zane School, all the way up to the zoo. And then once we get to the zoo, we have already modified the trail behind the zoo, and we created a pedestrian path down to the duck pond. And once we get to the duck pond there, that's where we want to start developing some gulches and greenways for trails and follow the Martin Slough watershed all the way down to the golf course. And then when we get on the golf course, extend the trail out onto Herrick Avenue, so that we will literally have a loop trail around the entire city. That is the ultimate goal. The concept from the zoo down to the golf course and over to the waterfront trail is very preliminary. So we're looking at alignments now, but there's definitely a lot of work going on now for the Beta Zoo. And the gem of the North Coast, which is Jesse Willer, our city engineer, is now going to talk to you about what part of the process we are in for the development of the Beta Zoo Trail.
Yeah, so little discussion about the Beta Zoo Trail, Eureka's Beta Zoo Trail. When looking at the concept of a loop trail system in Eureka, getting connection from the Eureka Waterfront Trail in the north of the city, which connects to the Humboldt Bay Trail, and getting connectivity down to the south end of Eureka was a critical link in getting a trail network installed in the city of Eureka. So the Beta Zoo Trail, that's where the idea of that trail came from, and we started digging in to some of the older documents that also brought it up, the gulches and greenways studies that were done, and you could see there was great potential there in that second slough area, which runs along the east side of Eureka from north to south, and would really provide connectivity from Waterfront Trail to Zane, to St. Joe's Hospital, to Washington Schools, to the zoo, to a lot of different areas in the city, connect neighborhoods to our trail networks. So that project currently is we're doing the environmental studies for it, and working on the environmental document, trying to gather information on what is actually out there in the trail alignment. And we'll be doing some community outreach, trying to get some feedback from the community on the trail, and give a little bit more of a picture of where things are at right now. And coming up soon, we have an opportunity to apply for the Active Transportation Program through Caltrans to try to get some funding to move the project from the phase it's in right now, the environmental kind of reconnaissance phase, and taking on the environmental document, to design and construction, and in order to get the project implemented and on the ground. So that effort is ongoing currently, and we're looking to submit that application this July. And we're very excited to keep this project moving ahead. Whether it's a single project that gets built from one grant funding source, or if we need to pull back and look at getting multiple different sources in order to build pieces of the trail puzzle to get it all completed and in place here in Eureka. So that's a little bit about the Beta Zoo. Very exciting project, and we're plugging away at it.
So that's all we have for updates for the future of trails in the city of Eureka. Thank you all for watching. I want to give thanks to a lot of different folks who have been essential to us having trails up here. First, I want to thank Senator McGuire's office and Jason Lyles for putting together the Great Redwood Trail and following up with all the work that's necessary to make that happen, filling those gaps especially in Humboldt County for the coastal trail will be a huge benefit. It's been very clear how much of an economic driver the trails in Eureka have been, and we're hoping that that'll do the same for the entire area. I also want to thank all of the elected officials from the county to all the cities, especially our city council and our mayor. I want to thank them for all of their support. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have the go-ahead to do all the work we do with the trails. And finally, I want to thank all of our volunteers. Doing these trails have been a big maintenance burden, and these volunteers have made it so that not only we can maintain these trails ongoing, but also so that we have the confidence in going forward with getting more trails here in the city of Eureka. So I want to thank Wanda Naylor and all of the work that she's done with the Hickshari Trail volunteers. I know that you're resigning, Wanda, but I am going to get you some Nootka native roses from Monty and try and coerce you back into coming back. I also want to thank the people at the Wiggy Wetlands, Susan Penn and the other Audubon Society members that are out there helping cleaning up the old Parcel 4, which is now called Wiggy Wetlands. I want to thank Christy Prescott and all the people at the U.S. Forest Service on Bayshore Way for doing their volunteer work on the trail in the Palco Marsh area. I want to thank Gail Popham and all the volunteers for the Wharf Trail folks who maintain the landscape median all the way from Del Norte up to C Street. It looks beautiful and it's always in great condition, and thanks to them, that's being taken care of. And then I want to thank Dennis Houghton and the Holsteads, Pam and Ted Holstead. And by the way, Pam and Ted are my new neighbors over here in this area. So I want to say hi to them and thank all of them very much for all the work they do on the North Waterfront Trail. All of these people and all of the volunteers associated with them have made a world of difference and made it so that we're able to continue to build these trails. So I want to thank everybody involved and thank you all for watching. Enjoy your shelter in place time. Have a good one.
Thank you very much to the City of Eureka, Miles and Jesse, for sharing updates on the Eureka Waterfront Trail extension to the south and the Bay to Zoo project. And before we transition north towards the city of Arcata, I also want to voice for folks tuning in via Facebook Live that also, if there's questions that are not addressed on that platform during this time, we'll also be sharing contact information for each of the presenters presenting today that may be able to answer in more detail your specific questions. So now we will head to the city of Arcata and we will hear from Julie Neander, who is with the Environmental Services Division at the city of Arcata.
Hi, this is Julie Neander with the City of Arcata's Environmental Services Department to talk to you about the trail work that the City of Arcata is doing. And we have been working for a number of years, and we've very happily succeeded in completing the Humboldt Bay Trail North section, and we are now working and in the planning stages for the Annie Mary Trail. As you know, we work collaboratively with the county, other cities in our community, nonprofits such as Redwood Community Action Agency and the Humboldt Trails Council, as well as many other interested individuals, and certainly the support of HCOG and state and federal funding all helps us put together the trails that we all know, love, and enjoy, and hopefully will enjoy in the future as we get new ones in line. I'd like to start out with just showing you a map of the trail that we are going to be looking at today. So we're going to start at the southern end of the Humboldt Bay Trail North, which is down here. It'll be stop number 1. Then I'm going to take you through a couple other stops, as you can see on the map. Stop number 2 is at the Marsh and Wildlife Sanctuary, which is a great connector on our trail system. Route 255 as we cross it, and then coming on up to Humboldt Bay Trail North and the beginning of the Annie Mary Trail, which is the trail that we have been working on most assiduously this year. The Annie Mary Trail will actually go out beyond the city limits, and we hope to be able to take it to the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, another partner, their water park there as well. So we're in the planning stages for all of that. We've had a wonderful and extensive public process, and we will talk more about that as I get to the different stops. I'd also like to put the trail projects that the city of Arcata is working on in context, because you can see that our trails really connect regionally to other trails. So Humboldt Bay Trail North will connect eventually to Humboldt Bay Trail South, which the county's working on. Someday, we would hope there will be a Humboldt Bay Trail West, which will go towards Manila, and that would connect at 255, we hope, in the city of Arcata. And then certainly our Annie Mary Trail, where the city is working on the Annie Mary Trail, it will connect eventually to county trail portion and then on into Blue Lake. And I know you're going to get an update from Blue Lake as well today on the trail. So enough for the maps, and let's go see what the trail looks like, the one that's already built, as well as the ones that's in the planning stages, the Annie and Mary Trail. Well, funny place to start our journey here at the end of the trail, but someday soon this will not be the end of the trail, as Humboldt County is working to make that connection with the Bay Trail here, which is wonderful. And here we are, as we just spin around a little bit, we see wonderful Humboldt Bay, and then the trail, which is unusually empty for a day like today. So I'm going to take you from here along the bay and up through and into the Marsh and Wildlife Sanctuary. Wonderful aspects about this trail is just that it's so close to the bay, and you get a really great view of the bay, and you also can learn a little bit more about the bay too. Here we are at the marsh, and one of the wonderful things about the Bay Trail and the Annie and Mary Trail once it's completed is that they are kind of like a necklace with many jewels on the necklace. And the marsh is one of those jewels, a well-loved place. And there are over 5 miles of trails people can take. So when you're on this trail, you can always look at opportunities for kind of veering off and checking out other aspects of it. Here we are at Samoa Boulevard, which we hope someday will be another connecting trail out towards Manila. Another jewel on the trail is Shea Park, the natural area, and hopefully soon we'll have a multi-use court and kind of more of an open seating area, as well as possibly some outdoor exercise equipment. We're in the process of looking for funding and being able to complete that project. Well, here we are at Sunset Avenue, which is where the Bay Trail ends, and the future Annie Mary Trail begins. So just this map is just some good overview of what the Annie Mary project area is. And we are starting, as I mentioned earlier, where the Bay Trail ends, going north. And we looked at a number of different alternative routes, but this became the preferred route, and I'll go into some of that information a little bit. And then you can see that the area outlined in red is the original project area, but with public and community input, really people wanted to see something more of a destination, so we worked with the county and the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District to extend that to the Water District's water park. In doing our planning process, we did a great deal of community outreach. You can see 370 responses to community surveys. We talked to adjacent landowners, and we also did bilingual outreach to the nearby schools and families. We did one that was a walkability assessment in Valley West, because that's a part of our community that is really cut off from the rest of Arcata, especially for people who want to walk and bike or jog. So really looking at how we can improve that connectivity. So the outreach events really helped us to understand what the community is looking for. They would like something that's separated from motor vehicle traffic. They want more connectivity, hoping that it would be on the railroad corridor. They liked having a bus stop near the skate park. This is a photo here of where the trail would start, and you can see the skate park off to your right. And they are also interested in lighting and safety measures, and certainly extending the trail. They do have concerns about transportation safety and personal safety. They really are concerns about both the Sunset and Gentoli overpasses and how we can help make those safer for people who want to access the trail or, access to different parts of town. And then I think for private landowners, they wanted some fencing or other ways to protect their property and their privacy. But in certainly analysis of other aspects related to different alternatives, you can see the railroad corridor alternative is one that really is the safest. Fewer road crossings, fewer driveways, no miles on the road, much more public support. And then connectivity is still good to kind of all those areas that we really want to be able to make sure the trail can get to or allow people to get from to the trail. Now I'd like to take you back to some potential stops on the Annie Mary Trail and look at those. Annie Mary Trail will go right by Larson Park, and so it will be another area where people can stop and enjoy themselves. Another jewel on the trail. Here we are at the Ridge Trail. The Annie Mary Trail will be coming through here along the railroad corridor, and then we'll have certainly a trailhead and kiosk here connecting people to the Ridge Trail. And then over here you can see we've already got parking, but we will be looking at upgrading that parking area as one of the wonderful ways to get on to either the Annie Mary and or the Ridge Trails. Further north, along the Annie Mary Trail, we'll have another small parking area here for people to stop and a little trailhead. And again, good connection. We'll make sure there's a good connection to the rest of Alder Grove Industrial Park on city-owned property. And then here we are going north along the railroad corridor again, taking us north out West End Road, and then terminating for now at the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District's water park. Another connection we hope to make from the Annie Mary safely across 299 and along Gentoli is to Carlson Park, which is one of the newer parks that the city's acquired with access to the Mad River, though you can't see it right now. And since right now we don't have the trail built, I just wanted to leave you with a few, potential renderings of what the trail could look like once it's built. And certainly we're a ways off. We're really just completed 30% design. We have to do a lot more work on environmental and final design, as well as really coming up with funding, but we are working on that. And really this work wouldn't be possible without the community support we get, both from individuals who are very committed to our trails, but also nonprofits, and certainly other local government agencies, as well as state and federal agencies that have all pulled together to help us not only with the Bay Trail, but certainly with the Annie Mary Trail and other future trails that we're working on collectively as a community. So thanks so much, and I hope I see you on the trail.
Well, a big thank you to Julie Neander and the City of Arcata for sharing Arcata's work on expanding our trail system. And Julie gave a great overview of the City of Arcata's portion of the Arcata Annie and Mary Trail. And now we are going to head east towards Blue Lake and visit with two people that have been working for over 2 decades to complete a first section of the Annie and Mary Trail. And again, the Annie and Mary Trail may be the northern start of the Great Redwood Trail. And so we're going to zoom in with Ingrid Kosek of the Friends of the Annie and Mary Rail Trail and Mike Foggett with the City of Blue Lake.
I'm Ingrid Kosek, Friends of the Annie Mary Rail Trail, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Friends. We started meeting in 1997 when the North Coast Railroad Authority removed the tracks between Corbell and Giantoli, the old Arcata Mad River Railroad, affectionately known as the Annie and Mary. And we started meeting as a group of trail enthusiasts, bicyclists, hikers, equestrians, and we wanted to have a rail trail along the Mad River on the old corridor. It was a dream, and it's going to be realized shortly. I'm going to first talk a little bit about the Friends of the Annie Mary Rail Trail, and then Mike Foggett, he will talk about the project. So, the Friends of the Annie Mary Rail Trail, our sole existence is to provide support for the development of the trail. And we do that through fundraising. The ways that we fundraise, we have annual events that we like to do. And we do the beer booth at Annie and Mary Days. You can take that down there. We do Pints for Nonprofits. We've been benefactors of those. We also put out an end-of-the-year annual letter to our recipients who have been very generous. We have developed an annual event, the Mad Scramble, and many businesses donate to that in order for us to profit from it. And currently, our current fundraiser is we've been gifted a e-bike from Rad Runner, and we are selling raffle tickets for that. And we help make all this money to develop the trail, and this is how we spend the money. We donate to the feasibility studies. We pledge matching funds for these grants that build the trails, and we help support grant writing. I'd like to thank everybody who's bought a beer, a raffle ticket, sent us a check to make this all happen. And you can follow us on Facebook. Our address is this one right here, Friends of the Annie Mare Rail Trail with the ampersand. And that will tell you what's happening, when it's happening, and how you can help. And I hand this over to Mike now.
I'm Mike Foggett. I've also been involved with Annie Mare for the last 23 years, and it's really the persistence of people like Ingrid and the other volunteers with the Annie Mare that have pursued trying to get a trail and raise money over the years. And the money Ingrid talked about has gone to matching funds for now a lot of the accomplishments we're making with the Friends of the Annie Mare. This first phase is funded through an ATP grant. It's a little shy of $1 million for this first part. It will be within Blue Lake proper, a little mile long. It'll start right here near the, which was the center of historic Blue Lake, the emporium where the miners used to pack up and go to the hills for gold, the famous lager bar. And it'll continue to the western part of Blue Lake on Charton Road. A lot of improvements we'll have. We'll have a pedestrian footbridge over Powers Creek, and this will be our thoroughfare and connectivity through town, and then it'll tie into the Mad River.
And the county's looking at phase 2. They're going to apply this summer to the next cycle of ATP grants from Charton to Glendale. And the city of Arcata is coming out to the first water park from the west. So it's filling in.
And I think what's really key is having connectivity on these various segments. So a lot of thought has gone into where we want to go as we eventually link in and we'll tie into Arcata and the Humboldt Bay Trail. And of course, here the beginning of the Great Redwood Trail.
We are the Great Redwood Trail.
Thank you.
That's only the first part.
Great. Well, a big shout out to all of the Friends of the Annie and Mary Trail, people that have been advocating and fundraising for over 2 decades. And as Ingrid and Mike shared, those fundraising efforts have paid off and have been integral for advancing the trail on the ground. And as we will see next in our next video, we will be live on location for the Annie and Mary Trail Phase 1 groundbreaking ceremony that the city of Blue Lake had last Saturday.
Good afternoon. I'm Adeline Jones, mayor of the beautiful town of Blue Lake. And today I'm wearing a mask with lemons on it. Because when we're handed lemons, when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. Years ago, we lost our railroad. And what did we do? We turned it into a beautiful trail. And that's what we're celebrating today, the Annie and Mary Rail Trail. And I'm surrounded by all of my council members, except for one, and townsfolk who have been part of it. I'd like to thank Ingrid, Kevin, Hank, Bettina, Mike Foggett, and so many others that have helped to make this a reality with their beer sales on Annie and Mary Day and their other wonderful fundraisers. And now I will turn this over to our supervisor of the 3rd District, Mike Wilson.
Thank you. I don't know who to talk to here, or to talk to you, or talk to these people here. I like these people better, so I'm gonna. I mean, you, virtual you, not you, Emily. You. I like you, Emily. All right, so I'm actually here representing Senator McGuire, who couldn't be here today. You know, there's travel restrictions, as you all know, this times, and also the hard times with the legislature these days with the budget issues that are coming up, and we all are mindful of that for sure. But in that vein, I want to say a few things for Senator McGuire, who has been, you know, a real leader on the Great Redwood Trail part of this, and you know, and I'll preface what I'm going to talk about here is he, you know, actually I'll read his first, and then I'll segue into what I have to say. We'll do it that way. So here I am to my best Senator McGuire impersonation. All I need, instead of this shovel, a Diet Coke and a little more energy than I would have. Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me just a short couple of minutes here at this remarkable groundbreaking. I'm truly sorry not to be with you in person, as I consider today's event to be a genuinely special occasion and decades in the making. The Annie Mary Rail Trail feasibility study from 2003, August 2003, was a historical document. I mean, amazing. And I, Mike McGuire, love reading feasibility studies. I like them too, but maybe I wouldn't put it in a statement like this. But he's a geek that way. The report is a fascinating chronicling of the storied rail lines and the history and culture of Humboldt County. It's also a great reminder of how much time, dedication, and hard work has gone into getting us to this special day. In fact, just reading the names of those listed in the study, some of which are here today, a bunch actually, gives you great flavor for this county and the perfect sense of how fortunate we are to be here to break ground for this trail. Trails are a big deal, as we know, and a true point of pride in Humboldt County, and rightly so. We have worked, all of us, and regionally also, on this thing called the Great Redwood Trail over the past couple of years. And we, and I am assuming when he says we, means his staff and himself, are honored to stand alongside the dedicated folks, that's you guys, who have worked tirelessly on the trail network here for many, he only has 2 many's, I'm gonna add an extra many years. And we plan to make that job easier in the near future. As the Great Redwood Trail comes into being, I can think of no history, no story, no trail to better serve as the capstone to it than the Annie and Mary. And congratulations to all of you. I look forward to seeing the ribbon cutting soon. So I just want to tee off this capstone. This is really the capstone. It's not just the capstone of the Great Redwood Trail and the connectivity all the way to the Bay Area. I mean, it's the capstone of the movement to create this. Really starts right here. So when I know geographically, when this Great Redwood Trail really gets moving, there's going to be people are going to misname this the terminus of the trail. No. This is the beginning of the trail. This is where it starts. This is where it started. So it'll be fun for us to remind people over and over and over again over the years that this is not the terminus. This is the beginning. Good?
Very good.
That's all I got for you today.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Is everyone ready with their golden shovels? Okay. The ground is nice and soft today, thanks to Mother Nature.
All right. We're going to turn dirt.
Let's go.
I think I have after. All right. Here we go.
Yeah.
Get it.
Well, it's very exciting to see trail construction or groundbreaking in person. And so big thank you to the City of Blue Lake and the Friends of the Annie and Mary Trail for hosting that groundbreaking. And again, that we can really think of that as the beginning of the Great Redwood Trail as we continue our summit today. And so now we are going to transition much further south to another section of perhaps the future Great Redwood Trail. And we are going all the way down to the city of Rio Dell. And the city of Rio Dell city manager, Kyle Knopp, has put together some helpful slides to talk about trail work and trail planning in Rio Dell, but he was not able to join us today, so I'll be giving an update. And so, as you know, visually, Rio Dell is surrounded by immense beauty along a curve of the Eel River with the striking Scotia Bluffs on the far side of the river. And during the summer, many touring cyclists bike down Highway 101 along the Pacific Coast Bike Route and travel through Rio Dell. And the city has put in a lot of thought on how to further improvements for bicycling. So Wildwood Avenue is the entrance to the city from the north, and the entryway and curving sidewalks that we're looking at now were constructed back in 2005. And make a very welcoming entrance to the city. But Wildwood Avenue is wide, and there is room for bike lanes, which the city is starting to construct right now. So the city has active transportation program funding through Caltrans that is currently funding the construction of bike lanes and walking and biking improvements to better connect two parts of the community separated by Highway 101. So right now, the colored portion of this map is Wildwood Avenue with the Highway 101 going over. And these improvements will really connect the neighborhood on the north side of 101, much more to the downtown area. And the current construction is also adding bike lanes on Bellevue. And so Bellevue is in our bottom kind of right portion of the screen that goes to another neighborhood in Rio Dell and eventually becomes the Blue Slide Road that connects over to Ferndale. And improvements are also being done with sidewalks around the Rio Dell Elementary School. And the project has also involved pedestrian and bicycle education at the elementary school. So here is a conceptual plan for biking improvements in Rio Dell that is a part of the Humboldt County Association of Governments, or HCOG's, bike plan. And so many of these purple dashed lines on the map are being constructed this summer with the City of Rio Dell's current funding. So then back in 2016, HCOG and the county funded the Eureka to Scotia Trail Corridor Assessment to conceptually plan trail connections between communities from Eureka to Rio Dell to Scotia. And while much of this planning effort focused on the NCRA rail line, the constant erosion of the Scotia Bluffs and also the desire for the residents of Rio Dell to benefit from trail connections really led the city to examine trail opportunities on the Rio Dell side of the river. So on this map, you can kind of see a faint red line, and that faint red line is the rail line as it goes through the Scotia Bluffs that, again, have always had lots of erosion, even when trains were running during that time. And the darker green line on this map shows the city's concept for a trail that would wrap around the city along the beauty of the Eel River. So the city has taken this trail concept further to develop a phase 1 of this trail to wrap around the town. So it would be a small interpretive trail about a half-mile long, starting from the northeast end of Edwards Drive. So you can see Edwards Drive here in the upper left, and that comes down from the downtown area. And if you've been to the River Bar in Rio Dell, it's likely that you came down Edwards Drive. And so this interpretive trail would kind of tee off from Edwards Drive and traverse along the riparian corridor, as this yellow line on our screen is showing, and connect up to Davis Street as a first phase. And so the city is applying for active transportation program funds through Caltrans for this phase 1 this summer. And so the river is really, again, the most unique feature of town, surrounded by sheer tall bluffs and having a really sizable river bar for swimming and recreating. And in Rio Dell, the weather is warmer than on Humboldt Bay, so the river really is a draw for people. So here are some shots of the area through which the trail would travel along the riparian corridor. Great, so I really want to thank the City of Rio Dell for being a part of this summit. And it's great to get an update from the Eel River Valley on trail opportunities and connections. And now we are going to head just downriver to the city of Fortuna. And we will learn about the exciting trail projects that have been constructed in that city and also that are in process.
Hi, I'm Merritt Perry, City Manager of the City of Fortuna. I'm here with Katie Schmidt from our Community Development Department and Brendan Bird on the camera with our Engineering Department. And we wanted to give you an update on 3 recent trail projects in the City of Fortuna, including the new trail at Newburgh Park that leads to the trails at the Gene Lucas Community Center campus, and the Dennis Went Memorial Trail that was constructed by River Life Foundation, and some new activity on the Strongs Creek Trail, also known as the John Campbell Memorial Greenway, that will bisect Fortuna in the future.
We're here at the Gene Lucas Community Center, where a mile of off-road trails meander through the wetland ponds and along the riparian corridor of Strongs Creek. They also are connected to the newly constructed trail that goes to Newburgh Park, and one day these trails will be connected to the John Campbell Memorial Greenway that will go all the way to the riverfront down at Eel River. It's a great place to take a walk with your family and friends.
The city's biggest trail project is the Strongs Creek Trail, which is part of the John Campbell Memorial Greenway. The trail would extend from the Riverwalk area all the way to Newburgh Park, which is a total trail length of about 2.5 miles. The trail was first identified in the city's 2010 general plan, and further project refinement occurred in a master plan that was completed in 2014. The city has been actively working with developers and property owners in order to acquire easements for the future development of the trail. As an example, we're standing right here at a property located along Strongs Creek and Jameson Creek, where the city is just about to obtain about 1,000 feet of trail right-of-way for future trail development. The trail, when it gets developed, will be a Class 1 bike and pedestrian facility that'll offer interconnection and recreation in a way that the city has not been able to offer it to its citizens before. Currently, the city has no funding for the design, permitting, or construction of this trail, but we are actively seeking opportunities for funding the construction of the trail. By the end of the year, we hope to have about 1.2 miles worth of trail easement, which is about 2/3 of the required private right-of-way to complete the trail.
Hi, I'm here with Sean Swanson, the founder of River Life Foundation, and we want to highlight what they're calling the Dennis Went Memorial Trail. This is a 7/10 of a mile trail that runs from the intersection of the NCRA right-of-way and P Street in the city of Fortuna to Palmer Boulevard. This is a nice new trail that they put in. They essentially came in and they put gravel. They first had to clear the railroad prism. They had to put gravel down on top of the tracks and tie, and then compact it. And here you see one guy almost single-handedly was able to put this in the time of about a week. We think this could serve as a great example for the community of how the NCRA right-of-way can be maintained and get almost immediate use as a trail, at least an interim use until the Great Redwood Trail can be constructed. I think that we'll see, if we maintain the other trails throughout the county in a manner like this, you'll see people wanting to use it and demanding that they're paved and that they're improved in the areas where they're seeing higher and higher use. One of the primary benefits that we've seen from this is River Lights used to come in here and volunteer and pick up thousands of pounds of trash and debris from illegal camps a year. Now there's an accessible trail that can be used for maintenance.
Not only that, we were able to come down here and do patrols and bring nothing but positive to this area, where this area had so much negative activity, costing our police force, our fire department, and our community thousands and thousands of dollars. And together we can make a difference.
One of the great benefits of this trail being here now is there's an access point for the community. They can walk and look at the Eel River and be connected to what's happening there. They might be able to check out the area known as the boxcars. Maybe some of you have heard of that, and that's along this stretch of the Dennis Went Memorial Trail. So this is a great place to come with friends and family. We also, again, we think this serves as a great example of how the NCRA right-of-way can be maintained and have interim use as a trail. I can think of a number of other places that this could happen, including through the city of Fortuna, possibly from Palmer Boulevard where this stops to Lolita, or from Eureka south to College of the Redwoods. Even though it's a gravel surface, it can be ridden by bike, it can be walked, it's a flat, non-yielding surface, and we think this is a good model of how the NCRA right-of-way can be maintained until the Great Redwood Trail can be constructed in its entirety.
Well, thank you very much, Merritt Perry, and also Sean Swanson there with the River Life Foundation. A big thank you to the City of Fortuna. Just want to bring up a map real quick, since that video showed a couple trail locations, just so perhaps we can have a greater context for everyone on this webinar. So please excuse the rough nature of this map, but here we are at the City of Fortuna, and the video initially started out at Newburgh Park, which is down here off of Ronerville Road, and the new community center that is built there. So those trails are constructed at the new community center. And there was, Brendan and Merritt spoke about the John Campbell Parkway and along Strongs Creek. And that is this green line represented here. Again, the trail that is in progress. And it would connect to the existing Fortuna Riverwalk that is here along the Eel River and is much utilized by people walking, dog walking, jogging. Great location there. And then the new Dennis Went Memorial Trail, where Sean Swanson has worked with lots of volunteers to really create a gravel trail that is great for walking, and also really provides a way to get to the Palmer Boulevard neighborhoods without having to travel on 101. And so this red line kind of is the Dennis Went Memorial Trail, represents that. And it starts here just at 3rd Street, where the rail line crosses 3rd Street here on the north end of town and extends to the Palmer Boulevard area. So just wanted to provide some context for where we just were on that video. And now we're going to jump back north again, and we are going to check in with Tom Phillips with the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. So the Annie and Mary Trail is not really the only exciting trail development happening in Blue Lake. RCMBA has developed an innovative partnership to build new mountain bike trails in our local area, and Tom Phillips with RCMBA. We'll talk about that work and the other work of the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association.
Hi everyone, my name is Tom Phillips. I am co-chair along with Sean Tetro of Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. We are an IMBA chapter club formed in 2014. Our focus is implementation, construction of trail systems, both multi-user and bike specific. We'll talk about the projects in a minute. We have about 320 members, put in 2,000 to 3,000 volunteer hours a year, at least. Very active membership. I'm proud to be associated with these guys. Our flagship project, I would say, is the Hatchery Ridge Trail System in Blue Lake. In 2017, we formed a partnership with Green Diamond Resource Company, which allows us to build on a small ridge behind the hatchery in Blue Lake. Those trails are directional, bike specific, intermediate level and above, and members only. And they've garnered state and national attention. Every year we hold the Mad River Enduro out there in September, and last year the Enduro sold out in a couple hours. The trail system has given us state and national attention. We're clearly proud of it. We're still working on it, still tinkering with it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Once again, you have to be a member to use that trail system, and it is bike specific. We've also worked with Bureau of Lands Management Arcata office. We're out at Lax Creek. We've been doing that since about 2014. Help keep the trails maintained, which largely involves spring cleaning, cutting trees out, cutting brush back, a little bit of weed eating. We also work on Paradise Royale every year, usually on Public Lands Day in September. And once again, cut the brush back, keep the trail safe and usable. County of Humboldt on the McKay Tract, we've helped with planning and will hopefully help with implementation of a small portion of the McKay Tract project, most notably being a skills park. For just a fun place for the kids to play, a pump track, a few things like that. And excited about that trail system and excited about working with the county. City of Arcata, we've got a few projects going with those guys. With working on getting a pump track located and some of the legacy trails in the Forsyth acquisition, bringing those into the system. And excited to work with those guys. It's been a lot of fun to work with too. I'd really like to thank our partners, Green Diamond Resource Company, County of Humboldt, all their planning staff, City of Arcata staff, Bureau of Land Management staff, Arcata office, and down south in Southern Humboldt. Thanks to all you guys. We can't build trail projects without organizations wanting to support and wanting to build those projects. And I think the common thread in all of those agencies is the people that we've worked with have wanted the project to happen. And I can't thank them enough for that. And thanks to Trails Council and the Trail Stewards for putting this together. It's good and necessary, and it's good to get the word out. Thanks. Bye.
Great. Well, thank you, Tom, and the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. And again, just because maps are often helpful, just want to kind of point out where Tom was talking about for the hatchery trail system that Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association has worked with Green Diamond on, and that is just south of the city of Blue Lake, up above Hatchery Road. And again, members of the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association are permitted to ride there, and it's easy to become a member if you Google Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. And Tom also talked about the Lax Creek Management Area, where they've worked with the Bureau of Land Management for trail development. And so this is in the Redwood Creek Valley. And so again, you can find out more information through BLM and Googling Lax Creek Management Area. And it's a great place, not only for biking, but also hiking and walking in that trail system and in the oak woodlands in that area. So we are next going to visit with the Humboldt Trails Council. So we'll tune that video up next. And Michael Pruill will be talking about the Trails Council and also the Volunteer Trail Stewards Program in particular.
Hello, my name is Joseph Cofresi. I'm a strong advocate for trail use and all things trail. One of my favorite trails in Humboldt County is the Bythe Creek Loop Trail in the Sunnybrae Community Forest. Since moving to Arcata to study forestry at HSU, I've fallen in love with Sunnybrae Community Forest and Arcata's Community Forest. And besides recreating through running and hiking and disc golf, I also wanted to do my part and give back to the forest I've come to know and love. I volunteer through the Volunteer Trail Stewards to help maintain this amazing naturescape and was recently accepted as a member of the Humboldt Trails Council. I plan to use these platforms as a way to continue advocating for trails and all that use them. Thank you and take care.
At Humboldt Trails Council, our mission is to support development, maintenance, and use of trails for recreation and transportation. That means that we advocate for building new trails, maintaining existing trails, developing active transportation, and encouraging people across the spectrum to make use of the trails that Humboldt County has to offer. And Humboldt County has much to offer.
Hello there, Karen Underwood here, Vice President of the Humboldt Trails Council. Love to hike and ride horses on the trails here in Humboldt County. Today we're down at Humboldt Redwood State Park on one of our favorite horse trails, the Bull Creek Trail, and enjoying the beautiful redwoods. I hope I see you soon on the trail.
We work with our community partners to encourage development of new trails that include connectivity with existing trails. We are currently advocating for construction of the final four to complete the Humboldt Bay Trail, development of a trail from downtown Eureka to the Sequoia Zoo, extension of the Arcata Bay Trail north to reach the Water District pump station and eventually continue to Blue Lake as part of the Annie and Mary Connectivity Project. Development of multi-use trails throughout the McKay Community Forest. And of course, sectional development of the Great Redwood Trail. These are all very exciting trail projects.
I'm Renee, and I'm the lead VTS coordinator, and we are here at the Arcata Marsh Interpretive Center, where I work for the city of Arcata and offer support to the Volunteer Trail Stewards site coordinators. And in the background is the Humboldt Bay Trail North, which is one of my favorite sections of trail in Humboldt County.
Through our Volunteer Trail Stewards program, called VTS, we help maintain trails throughout Humboldt County. The VTS program provides monthly trail maintenance on 7 trails. Over 150 community members comprise our work crews on these trails, and most volunteers attend monthly work days at their trail. In 2019, VTS provided more than 3,600 volunteer hours for trail development and maintenance. That's 3,600 hours of trail work. Knowing that the VTS program can greatly extend the trail maintenance resources of cities and county staffing allows those government entities to develop more trails. The VTS program is the most active aspect of the Humboldt Trails Council and involves many community volunteers. And we expect to register more volunteers as we progress towards the completion of the Humboldt Bay Trail's Final Four and the development of the McKay Community Forest. This summer, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Volunteer Trail Stewards. The VTS program commenced in July 2010 on the Hammond Trail in McKinleyville. Stacy Becker, who helped to develop the VTS program, served as the trail coordinator when the Hammond Trail VTS was formed and still serves in this capacity today. Thank you to Stacy for her years of dedicated work.
Hi, my name is Stephen Allen. I'm with the Humboldt Trails Council and McKinleyville Land Trust. I also serve as a volunteer trail stewards coordinator for the McKinleyville Land Trust properties. We are here at Matter River Bluffs, where many wonderful volunteers have committed their time to remove invasive ivy. Here you can see the Douglas iris, one of the many wonderful native species that can be found out at Matter River Bluffs. Here at the confluence of Mad River and the Widow-White Creek, Mad River is very important to us locally as it provides much of our drinking water. It also provides important habitat for salmonids and many other species throughout the watershed.
Whether you hike, walk your dog, ride a mountain bike, jog, use a stroller, ride your horse, or use other mobility means, we're trying to have trails that will serve your recreational and transportation needs. We also try to keep our trail users informed through our website, our e-newsletter, social media, and various trail events, such as this Trail Summit. So, from Humboldt Trails Council, thank you for attending the Trail Summit. We hope that you have learned more about what the trails community envisions for the future, and we hope to see you on the trail. The horsewoman in this video clip is Betsy Filippini, who is on the Humboldt Trails Council Board and our Community Engagement Committee. She's an avid equestrian, and she and her horse are sharing the Hammond Trail today. Many people ask, how do I sign up for the VTS program? And/or how do I subscribe to the e-newsletter? So the next couple of slides will give instructions on how to accomplish both of those things. Good day.
My name is Reese Hughes, and I have been the coordinator of the Arcata Volunteer Trail Stewards for the last 8 years since its inception, and involved with the Trail Stewards program since the very beginning 10 years ago. This is one of my favorite trails, the Sunny Brae Forest Trails and the Arcata Ridge Trail, and I love to walk it, so thank you. Come visit.
Great. Well, a big thank you to the Humboldt Trails Council, not only for that helpful video showcasing all of the work of the hundreds of volunteers with the Volunteer Trail Stewards, but also being the important key organizing organization for this Trail Summit today. So that concludes our local trail updates. And now we will shift and hear from Senator Mike McGuire, who not only has championed the Great Redwood Trail with support, but also through legislation. So I will now hand it over to the Senator.
Hey, good morning, Emily. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing great here.
Hey, thank you so much. And talk about an inspiring morning. Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much to Hank, and thank you, Carol. And of course, want to say thank you to the Humboldt Trails Council and the Humboldt Bay Trails Working Group for bringing us together this morning on this critical issue. First and foremost, if it's all right, Emily, I'd like to take a moment. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the state of our nation, our great state of California, and right here at home on the North Coast. Let's be honest. The last 3 months have been incredibly challenging, to say the least. The coronavirus has impacted so many in this state and taken the lives of over 110,000 across America. And the financial fallout, well, that fallout has been devastating to so many. And what this country witnessed, what we all witnessed in Minneapolis 2 weeks ago with the despicable act of those police officers murdering George Floyd, has highlighted the injustice that runs rampant in our society, even to this day. This nation, I firmly believe, is at a fork in the road when it comes to race inequality. We can dedicate our lives to justice for all, or we can move forward with our lives as usual. And I'm a firm believer that the latter is simply unacceptable. And as we gather this morning to talk about what we all love, and we all love the trails and the great outdoors, I hope we can show just as much dedication to social justice, show just as much dedication to equal pay for equal work, expanding access to high quality public education, and eradicating the stain of racism on this country. As we turn to this morning and this summit, trails are a big deal here in Humboldt County, rightfully so, and all throughout our great state. And I am so impressed with the dedication, the tenacity, the thoughtfulness and action to the folks we have heard from today, and all those who have been working tirelessly to create a fantastic trail network, not just here in Humboldt, but connecting the rest of Northern California. And there is so much more to come. And Emily, if it's all right, I want to do a special shout out to Blue Lake. I am so sorry that I wasn't able to be at the groundbreaking last weekend, but thank you to Blue Lake. And of course, looking at that Annie and Mary Trail, which will be the capstone for the Great Redwood Trail, congratulations. And we so look forward to working with you. I've been proud to work with you, and we are together boldly pushing to create a world-renowned destination for hiking and biking and riding trails throughout Northern California. In addition to the excellent new projects that we have all heard about today, we're also working with Willits and Ukiah, Mendocino and Sonoma and Marin counties, and many others to create unique and spectacular trails that people from all walks of life, from every background in life, can enjoy for generations to come. Trails, I think we can all agree, they are good for everyone, and they are great for the economy as well. And we're going to get into that economic impact here in just a moment. For the last couple of years, we've been working hard together. This has been a group effort to create an amazing experience along the 300-mile dilapidated NCRA railway between Humboldt and San Francisco Bays. The grand vision of the Great Redwood Trail is to connect Humboldt, Trinity, Mendocino, Sonoma, and Marin counties into the longest rail trail in the United States of America. We've always known that creating the Great Redwood Trail was not going to be quick, nor is it going to be easy. There is an amazing amount of work ahead over the next several years. After well over a century in existence, though, the right-of-way that was a mess of ownership, contracts, crazy easements and entitlements and lawsuits, Those days are finally coming to an end. Thanks to your hard work and partnership, we're turning the page. We're turning the page on decades of dysfunction with NCRA and starting a new chapter in what will be the great story of the Great Redwood Trail. So let's talk about how we got to where we're at today with some quick history. We saw a succession of bankruptcies and rail companies closing down here on the North Coast as Highway 101 was improved, trucking became cheaper, natural resources became scarcer, and maintaining the railroad became significantly more expensive. Stitching money together from a variety of sources, the state created the North Coast Railroad Authority, NCRA, in 1992 in a valiant effort, I might add, to save freight rail in Humboldt. But NCRA always faced significant headwinds, the exact same challenges that private railroads face in the preceding decades. And after severe flooding and slides, the federal government shut down the North Coast Railroad in 1998. NCRA was never able to recover, and there hasn't been a train north of Willett since. And to be blunt, NCRA was a damn disaster. It racked up massive debts, their stewardship was in complete disarray, and the rail infrastructure, well, it became severely dilapidated. But this failure is the North Coast gain. The failure of NCRA is the North Coast gain. It gives us the ability to create a truly world-class hiking and riding trail network that will be the West Coast Appalachian Trail. So let's turn to the Great Redwood Trail itself. In late 2018, the governor signed our legislation, SB 1029, the NCRA Closure and Transition to Trails Act, and I think that title says it all. The act called for the state of California to conduct a thorough audit of NCRA finances, to be able to close the agency down and throw away the keys, and begin the Great Redwood Trail master planning process. This master planning process that we've been involved with included an extensive boundary survey of the entire line, an expensive and time-consuming requirement that will allow us to move forward now more quickly now that it's almost completed. Get this, Emily, this vital report, it's due to be submitted to the legislature at the end of this month. And we're excited to take the data and push forward on the final closing of NCRA. Now, in addition, we've been making significant progress this year despite the virus. 2020 is going to be known as the big transition year, where we formally transition the line from a dilapidated rail line to what will become a world-class hiking destination for locals and visitors alike. Over the years, ownership of the rail line and the passenger service and freight easements have become fractured, and it's made progress difficult, nearly impossible. But just last week, this is so cool, just last week, NCRA voted to give up their rights, the track and freight easement south of Mendocino County. This was a historic vote, as it's the first concrete step that the new NCRA board has taken to dismantle itself, put trails as the top priority, and I promise it won't be the last. We've also been working with counties up and down the North Coast on projects that were discussed earlier this morning so eloquently by our panelists. In fact, nearly $35 million has been secured over the last 24 months from both the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the California Transportation Commission to begin the work on segments of what will become the Great Redwood Trail. We've also been able to significantly pay off NCRA's massive debts, and this is a statutory must, including the sequel lawsuit that NCRA lost years ago. This suit was just one more in a long line of mistakes that the agency made over the years, and it cost them over $2 million. But that is now resolved, and we continue to pay off their debt, since state law mandates that these debts must be paid off before this agency is resolved. So let's talk about next steps, and let's talk about what's going to happen now. And I got to tell you, these next steps are exciting. Once the state's audit of NCRA is finalized by the end of this month, we will take those recommendations and put them into law using a new legislation, a new bill, SB 356. This bill is going to include language that closes NCRA once and for all and assigns a successor agency to own the right-of-way and build the northern portion of the trail from Cloverdale all the way up to Samoa and the Humboldt Bay. This is going to be a massive undertaking. There's no doubt about it, but we can't tell you how excited we are to get this started. Rail banking the line then comes next. This is a crucial step, and I want to briefly tell you why, because this is going to make the Great Redwood Trail possible. Rail banking is just what it sounds like, banking the rail so that it stays a transportation corridor forever and cannot be broken up, with the added benefit that it could be turned into the longest contiguous rail trail in the United States of America. And this has been done, by the way, hundreds of times across the nation as commercial rail lines are phased out, and it's created literally thousands of miles of new trail in every state, in almost every state in the US. In the 1970s and early 80s, railroads all across the country were going out of business, just like here on the North Coast. So Congress came up with a way to be able to rail bank the line. And this far-sighted policy allowed community groups and trail organizations to work with railroad track owners to preserve them forever by placing hiking, biking, and riding trails on top of the rails. Rail banking this right-of-way will preserve it for public use for all time here on the North Coast. Yes, it's going to be complex, but we're getting started now. And I got to tell you, Emily, we're going to get this process of rail banking completed in the first 6 months of 2021. This is a massive milestone. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about our economic recovery from the coronavirus, because trails are going to be good for rural economies. So another huge benefit of the trail network we're building with the Great Redwood Trail, trails are significant economic drivers. The Great Redwood Trail is not just going to be a place for beauty or exercise or social and environmental benefit. It's far more than that. It's going to be able to deliver incredible returns for our economy. It's going to be an incredible economic driver for all communities it runs through and surrounds it. California's outdoor recreational economy is one of the fastest growing sectors of the Golden State. It generates $95 billion a year right here in California. It's responsible for 700,000 jobs, over $30 billion in wages, and brings in $6 billion in local tax revenues back to local cities and counties. And we believe that our region, even with this recession, will benefit because people are going to travel in-state rather than traveling domestically or internationally. The economic impact of trails is well documented across the country. Numerous studies have concluded the following. Trails increase the value of nearby properties. They boost spending at local businesses. They revitalize economically depressed regions, and they create a demand for lease space where there are once vacant buildings. And trails increase tax revenues in the communities in which they're located. Time and time again, it's been proven that trails create a huge benefit to our communities, and the Great Redwood Trail will be no different. In conclusion, let me just end with this. The Great Redwood Trail, yes, it's ambitious. And yes, it's going to take a lot of time. But there is more to this story. We envision the Great Redwood Trail being the spine of the North Coast. Think of it like this. The Great Redwood Trail will run 300 miles through some of the most beautiful and remote stretches in our nation. But with it, it's going to provide an opportunity to connect countless side trails to local and state national parks and federal recreation areas, existing trails, and it's even going to connect to the coastal trail. In short, the Great Redwood Trail will become the centerpiece for a network that so many of you have been working so hard on. And I can't tell you how excited I am and look forward to building this project with all of you and hiking every inch of it. Emily, I'd be happy to answer questions and hear your ideas and thoughts. And I know that we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for each and every one of you on this Zoom. And I just want to say thank you, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you very much, Senator, for those very helpful words and updates on the Great Redwood Trail. And so indeed, we have had several questions coming in, both through our webinar and also through the Facebook Live. And so I'll first share one that was voiced during the Facebook Live about the Great Redwood Trail. And really, if that was more around who are some of the key collaborators for developing the Great Redwood Trail? Will the state be working with tribes, local jurisdictions, adjacent landowners? How will that collaboration look?
It's a great question, and I'll try to be as quick as possible. So we've actually already started the public outreach, and I want to assure you that one of the reasons why we're not going to do this project fast, but we're going to do it right, is because we need to be able to take in exhaustive public input. So here's how it's going to work. First and foremost, we got to get SB 356 signed into law. So we're going to be bringing that forward this year. The reason being is it's going to formally shut NCRA down, and it's then going to create the successor agency. That successor agency will be a public body that will be responsible for the planning and the execution, the operations, and the maintenance of the Great Redwood Trail. They will also be point on all of the public input, proactively reaching out to the community, whether it's tribal governments or municipal governments or private landowners. There will be a robust public process. But the first step that we must do is, number one, we have to formally wind down NCRA. That will be done by the end of this year. Number two, we have to pass legislation that will advance the authority to create a new successor agency to oversee the Great Redwood Trail. And then number three, once that agency is established, we got to get folks appointed to it, and then they're going to have to start reaching out to the community. But that has already started through our office. We are hosting countless individual meetings, whether it's with local farm bureaus, trail organizations, cities and counties, private businesses. We've met with individual homeowners that are along the trail right now. And the other piece that we need to look at is we got to advance that final master plan. And we're also going to be developing a master security plan as well for the Great Redwood Trail. So a lot to come, Emily, I promise you, and everyone will have a seat at the table.
Thank you very much. We have a question around probably both for the senator and for Hank Seaman, and really looking at thoughts on how to make sure that all the great trails we're building are conducive to use by commuters as an alternative to driving, in addition to their recreation use.
Absolutely. I will look. Hank, do you want me to start out with that, or would you like to be able to start out with that? And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Mr. Seaman for all of his hard work. Truly, we wouldn't be here without his advocacy and boots on the ground. Hank, you want to take that first? You want me to take that first?
Either way.
Good. Why don't you talk about what's happening in Humboldt? Because I think that's been a goal of yours, and we can talk about Great Redwood Trail in general.
Sure. I would say that there's two fundamental types of trails. So we have trails that are oriented towards transportation and trails that are oriented towards recreation. And trails can be used for either purpose, but there are certain trails that we design for that transportation purpose. And so that's what you're seeing, Eureka Waterfront Trail, Humboldt Bay Trail North. These are paved trails. They're minimum of 8 to 10 feet wide. They have a center stripe, and they have some similarities with road systems, and they're really designed for multi-use. So, providing space for pedestrians, but then also especially for cyclists, and cyclists of all speeds and abilities. So, it's really those multi-use trails that are transportation facilities, and those are subject to design standards. And those design standards are intended to ensure the best safety possible for users. And so, as we plan trails, we look at the context, and if we're connecting communities, and if it really makes sense, we want to provide an alternative continuous route that would provide that opportunity to eliminate a vehicle trip and reduce vehicle miles traveled and provide a complete alternative. There's other contexts where we look at more recreational trails, and where it's really going to be used primarily for recreation. Those are not subject to those transportation standards, and there's those are the kind of trails where you might get, single track trails, unpaved trails. So it really depends on the context, and that also affects the funding as well. We can tap into state transportation funding for those transportation trails. So I think as the Great Redwood Trail Master Plan goes forward, they'll be really drilling down, looking at the specific context, community by community, and thinking about what makes sense for the existing roads and trail options.
Yeah, that's spot on. I'll be very brief, Emily. So what Hank was just saying, what really is going to drive the Great Redwood Trail is, number one, this master planning process. So I'll give you an example. As we move through the Eel River Canyon, I think the most likely surface that you're going to see based off of terrain and cost will be laying that layer of shale like we saw in Fortuna, and the great work that Fortuna has done on top of the rail bed and on top of the rail itself. As we are looking at connectors between, for example, like what we see between Eureka and Arcata along 101, that's asphalt and is perfect for commuting. That's what we're going to be working on, is taking those data points, connecting communities. You're more likely to see more of commuter style asphalt trail. When it comes to some of the more rugged areas of the North Coast, you'll most likely see dirt or some type of shale trail. But again, it's going to take a lot of public input, number one, and you're going to see this master plan. This master plan is essentially going to be the Bible for the Great Redwood Trail. It's going to develop what our construction costs are going to be. It's going to develop and look at our operations and maintenance budget for the year. But one thing that I'll promise you, there will be significant public input sought. We want the people involved in this process, because the Great Redwood Trail will always be the people's trail.
Great, thank you both very much. For people that are interested in staying tuned for updates from your office, Senator, and especially around the Great Redwood Trail, as the this first study is completed and we're heading into rail banking in the new year, and as NCRA transitions to a successor agency, where is the best place for people to find out, the latest news for the bigger picture state level work for the Great Redwood Trail, and especially of who to work with, and as far as the NCRA or a future trail successor agency?
It's a great question. Thank you so much, Emily. So there's going to be a couple steps this year. So before this calendar year is completed, we're going to be hosting, most likely virtually, a town hall in Humboldt to be able to do an update on where we're at with the legislation. So our next step is passing the legislation to be able to create that successor agency, figure out how many folks will be on it, which will then help drive the next steps for the Great Redwood Trail. So we're going to be hosting a town hall on the North Coast and then down in the North Bay in Marin and Sonoma about next steps. And we want folks to be able to participate and take that input. Number one. Number two, the best person to be able to contact, and I want to take a moment to say thank you to him. His name is Jason Lyles. We wouldn't be here without Jason Lyles' tenacity, his hard work, and just grunt labor, if I could just be candid. He is going to be the main point of contact for our office. You can reach Jason Lyles at the following number, 707-576-2771. I'm going to repeat the number, 707-576-2771. Jason will get on the horn with you at any time. I'd be happy to be able to get on the horn as well to be able to talk about it. But you will see a series of town halls this coming fall that will outline the next steps for both the Great Redwood Trail and what type of progress folks will see over the next 24 months. And we're going to want folks to be able to engage in those community meetings.
Great, thank you. I think this would be a good question for Hank, and especially just around if people have ideas for future trail connections. Let's say, for example, a trail connecting Blue Lake to Fieldbrook to McKinleyville, those bigger picture ideas. how can people engage to provide kind of those ideas to our local governments? And what is the process for local governments to consider kind of those trail ideas coming from communities?
I think, Hank, you may be on mute, Hank.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. One thought immediately is communicating with our county supervisors, and Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Madrone, all of our supervisors, really have all their communities in mind, and I think that's a great place to start planting the seed for new community connections through trails. And then we have our local regional transportation planning agency, HCOG, and every 5 years, HCOG updates the regional transportation plan, and that's an opportunity to provide input on where there's a need and desire for trail connections. And so, you can find HCOG on the internet. They have a good website, and find out the timeline for the next update of the regional transportation plan. And then finally, I would just say, just thinking back to the effort that's being made to develop and complete the Annie Mary Trail, I just really want to highlight the importance of the Friends of the Annie Mary Trail and their keeping faith alive, their perseverance, and as agencies have had to shift resources to other priorities and projects, I've always just felt a loyalty and a need to reply to that effort that Friends of the Annie Mary has made. So I think community organizations can really play an important part of garnering resources and investment to move projects forward. So I think that upswelling of community support can go a long way. Thank you.
Thanks. So we have talked about today just how trails are a key component for public health and safety. I wondered if either of you, a question that came through the webinar, being able to speak to the importance of trails in building community resilience.
Absolutely. Look, and I got to say, the Humboldt Trails Council has been leading this effort for decades, and I can't stress enough, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the leadership of the Humboldt Trails Council. That's the bottom line. And they have been talking about the importance of trails both for our physical health and our economic health for decades. And just want to say thank you, because you're the ones that are leading it. So here's what we know. We know being connected to nature helps with individuals' mental health. It helps with individuals' physical health. And what is going to be critical about the Great Redwood Trail and all of our trail systems, it's open for all. And I think it's going to be up to all of us in particular who are a part of this meeting today to be able to get communities of color into our state parks, onto trails, and ensuring that they have the access. And that is why it's so critical that we expand trails in our urban communities and throughout rural. And the other piece I want to just very briefly touch on is about the economic impact of trails. There has been financial study after financial study that has proven that trails are going to become some of the most significant economic drivers for rural America. Whether you're living in Kansas or Ohio or on the North Coast, we are home to communities that are economically depressed. And that's even in the good times. And what we know is that California's outdoor recreational economy, it's one of our largest economic drivers. And the Great Redwood Trail and all the trails that are going to be connecting to it will continue to be massive, massive drivers for our economy as we continue to build out, which will then build wealth within our communities and greater access to services, because it's going to also drive tax revenue as well. So I think that we have to make sure that we focus on this. This is going to be amazing for recreation. amazing for physical and mental health, but it's also going to help the long-term economic stability of North Coast communities for generations to come. I don't know, Emily or Hank, you all are experts at this as well, if you want to chime in on this, because it's critical.
I fully agree, and I think trails are really at the intersection of economic development, climate action, and equity. And especially when trails can serve alternative transportation, people can make their trips and achieve mobility, without the costs of vehicle and fuel and vehicle maintenance. So I think that's really valuable, and it's just really important that we provide trail opportunities that are accessible to people, where people aren't costed out of being able to access that. I think that's also one of the values of trails. And really, I think we're all equal when we're on the trail. We're all moving, and I think that it just helps bring our community together, and we can, just recognize what we have in common on trails.
Great, thank you both. I would also just add that while this summit has really focused on trails and connecting communities, that our local jurisdictions and at the state level have also really focused on other walking and biking improvements within communities and safe routes to school projects that have helped connect neighborhoods to schools. And that type of work around equity and ensuring that all kids have the ability to safely walk and bike to school, and for our community members to be able to walk and bike safely to the grocery store is also what is interlaced with kind of all of our local jurisdictions prioritizing where these walking, biking, trail projects are being planned. Great.
And Emily, I was just going to add 30 seconds. I'm a firm believer in Emily, Hank, I'd like to get your take on this, and please push back on me. I think budgets, public budgets, are value statements. We fund what we value. And if we value equal access for all community members, if we value non-motorized transportation, if we value a new, clean, green economy, then we should be investing in trails. It is going to be a significant economic driver. It's going to help build our communities up. And that's why in just the last 24 months, in our rural stretch of state, over $35 million has been secured. Over $35 million, that's unheard of in just 2 years. Imagine what's going to happen once we get this master plan completed. We are going to be competing with some of the best in the country because we've done the homework, because we are organized, and now we're mobilizing together. I've said this a lot, and I want to say it one more time. The Humboldt Trails Council are among the most organized in America. And I just want to say thank you, because we're here today because of you. We're here today because of local leaders like Hank Siemens, who, let's be honest, sometimes public works aren't always focused on trails. Hank has taken this on. Supervisor Wilson has taken this on. The Board of Supervisors have made this a value. So I just want to say thank you, because you're really leading the way, not just in the state, but throughout the country.
Thank you. And we're responding to the strong community desire, and people have shared their skills and their passion, their financial contributions, their volunteer hours. Some local business owners established the Humboldt Bay Trail Fund almost 3 years ago, and just the interest in developing that endowment that really gives the local agencies more confidence that they can take on more trail responsibilities, because for a lot of our local agencies, we feel a contraction with our infrastructure because the maintenance funding is limited. But we're really trying to have a period of expansion with trails, just realizing all the community benefits and really responding to the community's desire to have these facilities.
Amen.
Well, it is 11 o'clock, so I think we need to move towards closing. But I really want to thank our keynote speakers for today, Hank Seaman with County Public Works for Humboldt, and Senator Mike McGuire. Thank you both very much for joining us today.
Emily, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great. And actually, thank you all for participating through the many platforms that you are viewing this today, through the Zoom webinar and Facebook Live through Humboldt Trails Council's page, and through Access Humboldt on TV channel 12 and Access Humboldt's YouTube channel. Thank you all for being interested and dedicating your time to learn and celebrate with us today. I just want to kind of conclude with what you can keep doing. So I'd say the first is, let's keep using our local trails responsibly while welcoming others. Also, make sure to visit humtrails.org for more information about how you can contribute, whether that's time or a monetary donation. And I'm going to put up a final slide here that will kind of help share some of that information and thank our presenters. But I also want to add, if you had submitted a question that was either maybe too specific or not able to be addressed today, you may go to humtrails.org and find the contact info for presenters. Also, when you depart the webinar, there will be a short evaluation will pop up, and we please invite you to complete that evaluation so the summit organizers can know what better to do for next time and to get your feedback. So thank you all very much for your time, and thank you for joining us today. For all of the background technical assistance for helping us broadcast this event live. And a big shout out to Michael Kaufman from Backcountry Press, who was the behind the scenes Zoom administrator today. And a big thank you to all of our presenters. Again, Hank Seaman, Senator Mike McGuire, and all of our local jurisdictions and organizations that provided content for today's Trail Summit. So thank you all for attending, and I hope you're able to get out and enjoy the trails for the rest of the weekend.